Unarguably, one of the most influential scientific publications of all time is Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species. From its publication in 1859 right up to the present day, the book has been used to explain the theory of evolution by natural selection, suggesting the idea of survival of the fittest. Darwin explains that the so-called rules of evolution apply to all life, and us humans are no exception. Perhaps our own species, Homo sapiens, were in fact the fittest and survived in a world where other hominids perished.
As we all know, humans are descended from the ancient apes of Africa. Gradual physical and conscious changes over the past 6 to 7 million years are what separated us from this primordial form. If you place modern humans beside the last common ancestor between us and the chimps, the list of differences would be obviously substantial. However, we can recognize the key characteristics that separate the two. These would be the development of obligate bipedalism, a far superior cranial capacity, and the ability to create sophisticated technology. Now, the first change is arguably the most important. Obligate bipedalism is believed to have developed as a result of a climatic shift during the late Miocene. This is known as the savanna hypothesis. As the African climate became more arid, the East Africa Rift Valley began to open up, instigating a separation between the forests in the west and the arid grasslands to the east. It is possible that the split that separated hominins from the rest of the great apes was quite literal, i.e. the apes retreated west with forests while hominins stayed, evolved and embraced the new grassland environment. There are many reasons why the first hominins may have developed the ability to stand upright. Additional height for spotting predators lurking in tall grasses or carrying food long distances with the freed hands would seem the most advantageous. Another idea is that it offered better heat regulation out of the exposed African savanna. Recent theorists, however, have rejected the savanna hypothesis and presented fossil evidence that would indicate hominins developed the ability to walk upright within the boundaries of a forest long before the spread of the grasslands in Africa. Now, the earliest hominins from which characteristics can be easily distinguished based on fossil evidence is Australopithecus afarensis, which is believed to have lived between 2.5 and 3 million years ago. These still ape-like animals had the ability to walk upright and almost certainly lived in forested areas on the basis of their vegetarian diet that relied heavily on fruits and leaves not found in the open savanna. Over the next couple of million years, the cranial capacity of hominins began to swell from 350 centimeters cube of afarensis to 550 centimeters cube in Paranthropus boisei, 700 centimeters cubed in Homo habilis, and 1,100 centimeters cubed by the time of Homo erectus at about 1.7 million years ago. In unison with the larger and larger brain sizes was the improved use of tools and technology with an eventual control of fire by Homo erectus. At a time when the ice caps were being formed and the sea level was dropping, revealing land bridges, the large brain and technological advances of Homo erectus allowed it to finally take the first steps out of Africa.
It is thought that both us Homo sapiens and our now extinct cousins Homo neanderthalensis developed from Homo heidelbergensis, which are believed to have occupied South and East Africa, along with Europe and even Western Asia. Presumably the split came as what was to become Homo neanderthalensis adapted to the cooler European climate, while further south what became Homo sapiens perfected their ability to thrive on the African savanna. Neanderthals exhibit many features that differentiate them from Homo sapiens. A larger nose allowed humidifying and warming of dry, cold air. Their bodies were shorter and stockier to optimize heat retention, and their brains were often larger than that of Homo sapiens. There are also many similarities, including the use of sophisticated tools, the control of fire, the construction of shelters, and the production of clothing. Neanderthals were skilled hunters of large animals and also indulged in a variety of plant foods. There is also strong evidence that Neanderthals deliberately and symbolically buried their dead, a practice that hadn't been seen in primates or any previous human species. As Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalensis began to migrate across continents, they would have come into contact with one another. The coexistence of the two species is well documented, and some studies even suggest interbreeding. As time went on, it is believed that climate change once again intervened. One very cold glacial period may have significantly dried the African savanna and prompted a mass migration north by Homo sapiens. Meanwhile, expanding ice caps and freezing temperatures pushed Neanderthals south. As food sources shriveled and competition became a problem, it seemed the extinction of Homo neanderthalensis was imminent. By 28,000 years ago, they are believed to have died out completely, and Homo sapiens went on to colonize the world.
Sure did. So, if we were to summarise the major steps of hominin evolution over the past 4 million years in a family tree, it would look something like this. Now, the fact that the major branching points where species either evolved or went extinct coincide with the 3 major steps in the language cycle over the same time period is hardly coincidental. It is likely that advances such as bipedalism, a large cranial capacity, behavioural adaptability, use of technology including fire, cultural innovations, and even intercontinental migration were driven by a changing climate that altered the habitats of our early ancestors.
So, it's pretty clear that climate changes on a global scale have drastically affected the evolution of our ancestors. One can't help ask the question, what if the climate over the past 6 million years had been consistent? Might we coexist with other hominid species? Would our species have evolved the way that we did at all? Well, you could spend all day asking those questions, but we are where we are now, and Homo sapiens are still at the mercy of natural global climate changes caused by Milankovitch cycles. But what has changed is our ability to impact global climate and immediately adapt to the consequences. The fate of our species will likely once again be dictated by the climate around us, but will this future environment be human-induced?